You can build the best project in a suburb, but if the market doesn't see it right, you'll get slaughtered on your price. In this episode, we're unpacking how elite developers sell fast by marketing smarter, not necessarily louder. Welcome back, guys. Pumped for another episode today. Peter Kelly Property. We've got Claire back here to talk about marketing your development, how to maximize it. And Claire has done this very well. There's a couple of examples that she's nailed recently. So thanks for coming back, Claire.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So this is a topic that I reckon you're perfect to speak to because we've had a fair few go to market recently, and
I've done it a lot.
You've done it a lot, and I'm not sure if you agree, but the proof is in the pudding. You know, like the way you do it, the way you market it, from the very start to the very finish, will matter come your sales campaign. So I think a really important topic.
It is. It's a really interesting topic too, because marketing, I think if you had your flow chart or your overall timeline, it sits usually to the end.
Very much so.
But needs to be heavily considered at the start.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and definitely a point that can get missed. But once you get to a certain level of property developer, the lessons you learn probably on the back end of campaigns, you have to start implementing from the very start. So take us there, Claire. Like, what marketing are you thinking about right at the start?
It's not the obvious one. You're not looking at your styling, so to speak. But at the start, we really want to understand what our market is. So who are we targeting and who are we trying to market for? So is it a downsizer? Is it a family? Do we want to capture the entire pool, so to speak? But do we need a master on ground floor? Do we need a master on both upper and ground?
Yeah.
So understanding in that design phase who we want to buy it or who we want to target. So then ultimately at the other end, when we do get to marketing, we have the right people coming through.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Hard to market if you haven't got something to market and you haven't got your angles. So reverse engineering it and keeping marketing in mind right the way through.
Exactly.
Super important.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another point when you're at that design phase, whether you're moving to sell on completion or off the plan, you want to start to create, and we've spoken a number of times, but start to think about creating those special moments throughout the house and how someone's going to receive them and how they're going to have that emotional connection when they walk through the home. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. Like when we walk through these products that are finished, it's no doubt, and it's evident that the time that goes into them, pre-planning and design stage, that the moments are there. They are obvious versus maybe, I think back, a decade ago when you go through some of these homes and they're definitely lacking the moment. So you can see the moments are going into them. And then when you get to marketing at the end, whether it's photography or whatever it is, or people just coming through the home at an open home, they are sort of seeing those moments around the place, which is nice, which then creates connection, which then hopefully creates emotion and emotional connection from the buyer, and then hopefully has them competing on your property.
We had an agent once tell us, Kyle Raven, that an emotional buyer is your best type of buyer because they'll often go above maybe what makes sense via data. And I guess the only way to do that is to make sure that you're designing for that particular end user and creating an emotional attachment there.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. So we're starting the marketing process right at the start, the design, the floor plan, facade, spec, all that sort of stuff. It all needs to have the end marketing in mind. Talk to me about, you'd probably put it in a couple of different piles. We'd talk about off the plan sales, where they can buy it really early on in the build process. Sometimes even selling it before the build starts, which is quite rare. But selling it through the build process, which is probably a different type of marketing and a different way to market. It can be costly as well. And then you've got marketing on completion. Do you want to talk to us about, marketing off the plan and when you would look at that, when you wouldn't look at that?
Marketing off the plan for us, very common, say, in your high-rise or low-rise apartments where they will sell a number of apartments before they even break ground. Not so common for us. I think generally speaking, the further along you get with, a side-by-side or a townhouse or a townhome, you can usually create more revenue because someone can visualize it. Again, that emotional attachment. But for us, if off the plan is a market, I think like we may as well touch on last year that off the plan was really hard to move.
It's been tough since COVID, you would have thought, with the
Yeah,
media
exactly.
getting into builders and that trust, and is the builder going to get to the end and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So if the, selling off the plan is something for that particular time, I guess that's when we look at our floor plans, our marketing renders. So visualization of those, again, special moments, the facade, all the things you've worked on at the design, as well as putting together your mood board. So your touch and feel, if you have a potential buyer, they can select the tapware, they can hold it, they can hold the tile, they can see the scheme, sort of what it's going to be like at the end.
Yeah.
And then it's about getting out on the platform, potentially hoarding and a big render out the front. Again, that probably goes back to what you're selling and if it warrants it. But I guess it's trying to get your end user to understand what they're buying at, say, frame stage.
Yeah, and is that, like we said earlier, like creating your best type of buyers, your emotionally vested type of buyer, trying to create that emotion and that connection with the property before they can actually, really touch it and feel it and sort of live it. So by touching and feeling the beautiful stone, the floor plans need to create a sense and a perception of space. All these sorts of things need to work. So essentially get the buyer to commit and attach emotionally before it's even finished.
Exactly. The same way I get excited when we get our interiors box, when we're going through that interior phase, it's that concept, and I guess it's important to know all these elements are very visually appealing. So a floor plan is not your working drawings online. It's being done by someone who does graphic design, and they're neat, clean lines. They've got a bit of color in it. They're very visually easy to read.
Yeah, there's not a plethora of measurements and notations on there where it feels quite busy. Your marketing plans will be quite open and spacious and less words and furniture that fits nicely inside and space. Yeah.
And then in summary, your marketing renders, you've got your facade, probably a master bed, if a walk-in robe, if you can get that, a wet room, and then a kitchen.
Yeah. So they're the ones sort of you want to hit, because that's the thing. You can do renders for days, can't you? But that's just going to sort of blow
a lot of money,
blow the budget. And so, depending on the position you're in and the market you're playing in, I guess you're weighing up in that marketplace. Hey, are we? And you lean on your local agents for this and that sort of thing. Are we having a run at an off the plan play? Because you will spend some money on it. And if you can get a deal done, it's worth it all day long. But if you're not going to get a deal done, potentially you ride it out to the end.
Well, if it is a completely flat market in the off the plan world, it's let's save that 10 grand for the back end.
Yeah. Put it into some sheer curtains or something. So take me there. We've maybe we haven't done the online marketing. Maybe we have, the off the plan. We either have or haven't done it. We've got to the end. Where do you think the advantages are at the end, selling at the end? What are the things we need to get right to make sure that people are coming through on that first Saturday? Because just quickly, a couple of weeks ago, you had one go to market that had a shit ton of people come through, especially in a reasonably flat Melbourne market here. And the agent was genuinely gobsmacked. I think it was the biggest open he'd had, in the last couple of years. So a lot of that, the majority of that, has to go to the ability to market and sell the idea of what you're trying to sell there, because people have come out on a Saturday in droves to get down to see that property. So what are the things we need to be looking at?
So if we get to the other end, and I guess in the perfect world with a side-by-side or a 2 townhouse development, we like to get one off the plan and have one at the end. So here we do, that is the dream. So we do always like to take one to the end, because you can't help but think in a great market with a competitive auction or a competitive buying pool, you're going to get a really good result.
Yeah.
So we get to the other end. This is the point where you really need a good team and a team that understands who we're trying to sell to. So you've got your stylist, furniture. So this, again, you want it to be styled well, and I've spoken about a lot of times, but the general public and, home purchaser, they really understand their interiors and they understand their furniture these days. So making sure your styling talks to the current times and the person who's going to live in that.
Yeah.
It shows them how you can use the space. You certainly don't want to put a dining table that is so big that you can't walk around, or a couch that doesn't fit the space, because all of a sudden a lot of people, if they're not from this world or from this industry, they go out there, even people in this industry, they can't visualize something that isn't there.
Yeah.
So if they see a couch that's too big and no circulation space, that's all they leave that property with.
Yeah, that it doesn't work. The floor plan didn't really work.
Correct.
Yeah.
So partnering with a really good stylist to make the property, I guess, showcase its best and maximum use. And then a photographer, a really good photographer. Again, when we're designing, you're creating those moments that photographer will capture. And that is what goes out onto the world to then flick through and book in your inspection.
Yeah, 100%. And just a reminder that those moments, you've somewhat figured those out right from the early planning stages, like we mentioned 10 minutes ago. The moments are existing. That's not sort of get your photographer, hey, can you find me half a dozen moments in this house? It's nearly, I know you, Claire, you go out with the photographer and say, well,
I need this, I need that.
These are my moments.
Yep.
I knew about these moments nearly 2 years ago.
Correct. And that is really important. It's having those special areas that people see online that they can go and visit then. Now, I've left one item out on purpose, being the sheer curtains. So often we will put sheer curtains to, say, the living and the master, or a couple of spaces that make sense. And this is, again, to give the end user an experience and an understanding of how they can live in the space. The reason I left it out is the property you mentioned that had a really great success rate on the weekend. We didn't put shears. And we made that decision because there is a lesser asking price and the market buying this product would not expect it. So it's just about understanding what product you're providing and what level you need to reach. Are shears worth it? Are they expected?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's important because depending on where the market sits and where your product sits inside that market, 100% there's a level of expectation. And when you get to the end of the job, you're always finding more things to spend money on, whether it's painting fences, fence extensions, cleaning, sheer curtains, plantation shutters. The list genuinely goes on. So you got to pull it up somewhere. And there you go. That's a great example of a property that's come up really well. And I haven't got down to that since it's been open, but I saw it online, obviously, and didn't realize there was no sheer curtains because all the other photos were, spot on and really capturing and, didn't notice there were no sheer curtains. And
didn't need them.
Suddenly there was dozens and dozens of people there and a couple of Saturdays ago and no one's worried about the sheer curtains. They're just worried about how many buyers that are there they're going to have to compete against to get the property. So I think there's some great tips because sheer curtains, you flick a few of them around, talking about thousands. So important that you've got to keep a lid on it and work to your budgets and your return.
Exactly. It's probably just about being fluid and maybe agile depending on the property. I remember a sort of weatherboard, older style period looking home in Williamstown. We put shutters on there at the front, and that was purely to allow the end user to understand what the whole facade could look like. I guess an important addition to do.
Yeah. 100%, because not everyone can visualize it. And if you've put this plan in place and you're confident with your execution and what you're delivering on, you come that far, you got to bring it home for the end user, at least show them. And I think the buyers from that have got the details of the window furniture and they're finishing the rest of the window furnishings to suit their own needs and wants. And that's a costly exercise. So one that our client didn't need to do, but could show them and give them a sneak peek into what this beautiful weatherboard home could look like with shutters on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, nice, Claire. Some really good insights and I think some really good lessons. Like marketing, you can spend a lot of money. So the off the plan can be a bit of a money pit. It's worth it if you can get it right though and get a deal done. So
absolutely.
So it needs to be managed properly. But I think, more importantly, having an eye on your marketing from the outset, I think is a really good discipline to push you in that design stage to make sure that you are doing your job properly rather than just maybe letting your designer, tick and flick. Here's a jewel lock, couple of 30 squares. Geez, they look good. They're 4 bed, 3 bath, 2 living. Like what more could you want? But to push you to think about your marketing and then you'll thank yourself when you get to the end and those moments are there.
Exactly. It's like every element in the development phase, if you can plan at the start for the next stage, it's going to make it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's nearly there when you're looking for it.
Yeah,
Rather
exactly.
than trying to make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Awesome, Claire. Thanks for that. Some great tips, and we'll see you soon, no doubt.
No doubt. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. And if you're still here, really love your work, wouldn't do it and couldn't do it without you. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Jump across to the littlefishnetwork.com.au. There's people helping each other in there every day. Fastest growing property platform in Australia. Get across there and get across to IG. Get across to Instagram and say hello. Peter Kelly Property. Thanks for watching. Happy Wednesday. See you Friday.